first time you ever visit. It has something to do with wigs. Do you know anything about that? Would you care to elaborate on that?
Sure. When will I wear wigs? Yeah, you know, it's so funny. That started as like, it was a DVD extra on a Two Towers DVD. It was obviously an interview prank that Don Monahan perpetuated. I was in New York City at the time of that, so we weren't even in the same room. That's why I didn't know who it was. It was via satellite, because they were all in Berlin doing a press junket, which is sort of like a day of press interviews where people ask technically the same question over and over again. And so it was just another voice in my ear that happened to have a semi-German accent. And the questions were certainly weird. Initially, I didn't think anything of it, and then it just got weirder and weirder. And I knew that something was up. But it's really funny. You know, I recently rewatched it for the first time, because it's since gone on to TikTok. Yeah, it's loaded. There's all these kids that have seen it recently. But I rewatched it, and my wife had never seen it. And I was shocked at how adamant I was about not wearing wigs. Like, what the heck, man? Just say you have. Like, Frodo wore a wig. Like, what do you mean? You might. You definitely did. So, like, I don't know why I had this weird. I had to stick my foot down. But if I could go back, I would just be like, yeah. It's so funny. And I will wear wigs again.
So you've been on the industry for a very, very long time. What keeps you passionate about still doing this today?
It always changes. I mean, there's no two experiences that are alike by virtue of the fact that it's a new script, it's a new director, it's a new location, it's a new group of people that you're working with, a new creative environment. So it's always fresh, it's always exciting. There's always something to be learned from it and taken away from the experience. I feel like I'm still kept on my toes and challenged, and you know, it's never stale. it's never boring. It's always interesting, and I'm just grateful to still be able to do it. You know.
And throughout your career, you've had a number of different roles, right? You're working constantly, but I think most people remember you from Lord of the Rings, obviously, right? And were you... Yeah, I mean, it's such an iconic character, and you played it so beautifully. What does Frodo mean to you now, 20 years later? Is this still like a big part of you, of who you are, or your memories?
You know, when I think about Lord of the Rings now, it's so interesting, right? Because we spent the better part of 4 years making these films. So for me, the kind of collective experience of having made it is what is imprinted on me and on my soul and kind of my life. And the way that enriched my life in terms of my connection to New Zealand, the friends that I made, the friends that I continue to have. So like that stuff is sort of what has had a lasting impression. And will be with me forever, you know. And then there's the movies coming out and being embraced the way that they were when they were released, and then subsequently they've grown in terms of their regard, in terms of pop culture, and the way that they're considered this sort of great classic trilogy, because now it's 20 fucking years later. So crazy. So, you know, it's like, yeah, it's forever there. It'll be probably the thing that I'll be recognized for the most in my life, no matter what I do.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that. I'm so grateful for that, because it's also representative of movies that I love, movies that are so meaningful to all of you. You know, I think one of the most special aspects of having been a part of Lord of the Rings is, by extension of meeting all of you, we get to hear your personal stories, ways that these films have impacted your lives. So we hear constantly stories of people who have had difficult times in their lives who have relied on the films and it's helped them through a difficult patch, or families that watch them every year as tradition, husband and wife who met each other because of their connection to love. I mean, constant stories of love and connection, and we get to be a part of that, and that's really beautiful.
That's awesome. I gotta ask you, it's been 20 years since you played Frodo. What sort of magical potion do you use? Because you look identical.
I swear I hate it.
Sure.
Sure. Lo único que creció fue el mustache. Más nada.
That's just so that we don't know you're immortal. What is the most memorable fan interaction you've had? Because you're right, I mean, Frodo and your career has impacted people so much. Is there any memorable fan interaction you've had that you share that experience?
And there isn't one that stands out. I don't have a memory of like a specific interaction. But what tends to feel the most meaningful, again, like I said, are people sharing their stories, the ways in which the work that we've done, and I play a character in that film, or the series of films. But these movies are made possible because of thousands of people's collective efforts. But really, I feel like I had a small part to play in the whole grand scheme of things. But that we hear these stories of how the movies have impacted people's lives, like those are always the most meaningful interactions, because it's hit people on a really profound emotional level, and to be slightly a part of that is...
I have to ask you, and this is a question I've always wanted to ask you. I've been a fan of yours since forever. Do you remember anything about the Back to the Future shoot when you were a little kid?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the Back to the Future 2 was the first film I was ever in. Up until that point, I'd done commercials, I'd done a Paula Abdul music video, but I'd never been in a movie. So I had this tiny little part in the cafe. No, I remember it vividly, because I loved the first movie. So being in the sort of town square, but it was dressed for the future. So like, I know that clock tower, I know this square, but to see it from the perspective of what it would have been in the future was so cool. And I was 8 years old, so I'm like walking around and seeing all these futuristic flying cars. Like, it was totally mind-blowing. And and to work with Michael J. Fox, Marty McFly, like none of that was lost on me. I knew exactly what was happening, and it was really cool.
And as a child actor, you did a movie that was very intense for me, which was The Good Son. How was working on a movie that was so intense and dark at the moment?
Fun. I mean, so look, I have a brother who's 7 years older than me, and if anybody here has an older sibling, they know what that's like. He was renting horror movies with his friends, and I got to then watch those unbeknownst to my parents. But like, I got exposed to horror films way too early. Because of my older brother, which was so cool. He also exposed me to music and amazing things. So I was already kind of a genre fan and liked horror movies. So to get that script and see this sort of really interesting take on like the bad seed, which is sort of essentially what it is, was awesome and thrilling. I had never read a script or been given an opportunity as a young actor to work on anything that was that dark. So I was thrilled. It was scary, it was kind of fucked up. The bad kid dies in the end. It's gnarly, and I loved it. And the opportunity to work with Macaulay was rad. I was a fan, like, I'll never forget, I'd seen Uncle Buck, but I'll never forget Home Alone. Like, when that movie came out, it was a film. it's still such an important movie in our household. So to get a chance to work with him was really exciting, fun.
Do you think that also helped you to stay like you? I know you love horror and you're producing.
Yeah.
That helped you in now.
Working on that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that movie specifically helped me, but it certainly continued to pave a path, I guess. Because then I worked on the faculty when I was faculty's so good.
Faculty es buena,
It's
faculty.
amazing.
Sí,
Such a
la de
treat
los
to work on
muchachos que
that
se
movie. I was
quedan
such a
en
fan
la
of his.
escuela y
So yeah, I mean, all of them
vienen
kind of are like breadcrumbs, I suppose. But when I ultimately decided I wanted to produce and be involved in making something, I fairly active. The idea of horror and genre was just such an exciting thing. Specifically, the kind of horror and genre at the time, this was like over 10 years ago, that wasn't really being made widely, where sort of genre elements were taken seriously. It wasn't just for exploitation purposes. Tell really interesting, compelling stories that happened.
As an actor, you play both heroes and villains. Which would you prefer, or which is more fun for you?
I mean, I guess villains are fun, right? Kevin, in instance, was really fun. Playing Frank and Maniac was also really fun. Particularly, that was such an interesting approach, you know? So much of that movie is, so much of that movie is in POV. Hello?
Ah, no.
It's fine. So, yeah, I think all characters are interesting. I think I'm always looking for characters. Can you not hear me?
Ahora.
Let me start that again. I think all characters are interesting. I think I'm always looking for characters that are unique and have something about them that isn't, I don't know, that sort of allows you to grasp onto something. And that can be a villain or someone that's not, but looking for some kind of unique characteristic, I guess.
Is there any role that you almost got, but you didn't, or for some reason you couldn't get, and you think about, and which roles?
Well, there's so many. There's so many. I mean, there's so many movies I auditioned for. I don't know that there are many that I got really close on necessarily, but movies that I auditioned for that I love. Like I auditioned for Rushmore, and the thing about that, I'll never forget that because at that point, Wes Anderson had only made one movie. He made this movie called Bottle Rocket. If no one's seen Bottle Rocket, I highly recommend you see it. It's great, and it's so different from what has sort of been solidified as his aesthetic since. He hadn't quite established that look. It was, if you saw it, you wouldn't necessarily know it was a Wes Anderson movie. It's great. So the fun for me was getting to meet him. And I'll remember going to his office. He had an office at Sony, and I sat at his, in his office, and I was like, man, I'm just such a huge fan of Bottle Rocket. So I obviously didn't get the movie, and it didn't matter because, I love that movie, and I love Jason Schwartzman's incredible. But yeah, I auditioned for Moulin Rouge.
What?
Yeah, which role? It would have been the, what's his name? Ewan McGregor. It was the Ewan McGregor role. It would have been. Oh, hello. Yeah, it would have been the Ewan McGregor role, I think. Which obviously I was quite a bit younger.
Dame una
So I
botella de
think
agua,
we were
por
just
favor.
trying different things, But I mean, I had to fully take voice lessons and sing in the audition, the whole thing. Yeah, it's wild. It's fun. So yeah, I mean, look, plenty of sort of opportunities along the way that don't become part of your reality. But I'm always so grateful. It always feels like the right things happen the way that they're supposed to happen, kind of. And so many of the things that I have missed, quote unquote, are favorite movies of mine, Everything happens for a reason.
You didn't miss on Frodo, and you were perfect for that. So we're grateful for that you were Frodo. We're gonna take, if it's okay with you, we're gonna question from the audience, so go ahead.
How was your experience portraying Word from Over the Garden Wall?
I have such a fondness for Word. I love him. I got to revisit that character recently because they did that Aardman animated short in celebration of the 10-year anniversary, which was just a delight to sort of be again for a second. The making of that was really special. It was, Patrick McHale who created it, and it was his vision. He directed the whole thing. He was a delight to work with. The animation style is so special. Those characters and the connection between the two brothers is really special. We had a lot of fun, and it's funny because it all started as a short, which you can see online, The Tome of the Unknown, was sort of the genesis of the whole thing. And then he wrote a mini-series beyond that, and it became what it became. But we all felt really grateful, I think, to be a part of it. It was so wonderful getting to work with Melanie for the first time. It was great. Yeah, it holds a very special place in my heart. I love Over the Garden Wall.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hi.
I know filming must have been really challenging due to the size difference of the characters. So how was the experience filming the movie and then seeing the final product with like the editing being smaller than the other characters?
Amazing. It's a wild thing. I mean, because some of the things that we were doing on the day were in camera, right? So like, we could see this, like the scene between Frodo and Gandalf in Bag End in the kitchen, right? That was a motion control, forced perspective rig, where you could literally look at the monitor and see us in the same frame. So there were certain things that we could see and kind of register how magical it was going to be. But then there were plenty of things on the day that weren't there, like the cave troll, for instance. So the first taste of that we got, and also seeing ourselves small, although we had scale doubles too, so for wide shots we could sort of see. But the first taste of what the film was going to look like for us happened in May of 2001, before the release in December, because they cut together a sort of reel, almost like an extended trailer, but with the cave troll sequence for the Cannes Film Festival. So we brought that out to Cannes as like a special preview. And that was all of our first experience really seeing that stuff come to life, and it was mind-blowing. It's overwhelming when you work on something in such an intense and intimate way. And your reality is the work and the day-to-day and like being on location and all of the things that comprises. So then finally sitting down and watching the movie, which I think we finally saw a cut of the film in probably October or November of 2001. Seeing it for the first time was overwhelming. Like I remember walking out of the cinema and not knowing how to process it. It's just because you're also blending, what's built into your DNA is your experience of having made it, and then you see it, and you have all these expectations of what it's supposed to be. Of course, it ultimately exceeded our expectations, and it blew our minds. But it's an overwhelming thing to see all of those elements come together for the first time.
Did you keep anything from that show? Is there like a stain in your house?
Yeah.
Or can
Yeah, I got stain. I have a pair of feet. Stood the test of time pretty well.
Are they comfortable?
I don't wear them. I have the ring.
Ahí está.
Yeah.
you still carry the ring?
I still carry them. Well, it's up in my attic.
Okay, you're not carrying the ring.
Hi. First of all, thank you for coming to our tiny little lady island.
Yeah, it's beautiful here.
Besides your in-person
acting. I truly appreciate your voice acting skills.
Thank you.
One of my favorite roles is in childhood movie. So I was wondering, can you tell us like an anecdote or something quirky about you working with the lady Robin Williams?
I mean, both of those experiences were really special. George Miller is a genius, and getting a chance to work with him twice was such a gift. The second film, what was really special about the second was that the thing about voiceover is that for the most part, you can record anywhere, and it also means that invariably they're not always going to link up actors' schedules to be in the room at the same time. There was an exception on that. The first one we did most of the Penguin group I hang out with and Robin. We did most of our stuff together. But there's a lot of stuff of us doing things solo, and we were in Los Angeles, so people would go home at night. And it was over kind of a period of time. But the second film, we all went to Sydney and recorded all of it together. And that was so much more immersive. It really felt like we were in it every day, making this thing together in a way that sometimes VO, you can feel a little isolated. So that was really, really special. And to be in Sydney, which is such a beautiful place, with all of those guys, and then to spend time with Robin in that way. And you know, a lot of those dudes were comedians, right? So at night, occasionally, some of these guys would go and do like stand-up sets. And there was a couple of them that had organized with a local club to do some sets. So we were invited as a group to kind of go out and watch them get up on stage. And so Robin came, all of us came in support of, I think, like 2 or 3 of them. I now can't remember their names. But anyway, we're sitting there, and as each guy goes up and does a set, I could just see Robin like getting more and more antsy, like, oh shit, he's gonna go up. You just feel it, and then all of a sudden he like couldn't contain himself, and he like got on stage, and we all got to watch like a 15-minute Robin Williams set. It was
Gotcha, wow.
Total gift. Yeah, getting to spend time with him and work with him. He was a really generous, kind, beautiful human being. And, you know, we miss him.
Yeah. We all miss him.
Hello. Hello. Hi. So I'm a massive Marvel fan, and I wanted to know if you could tell us a little bit about the character and a bit about the new movie coming out, Toxic Adventures.
Can you repeat that? Because we can't hear it.
It's the problem.
Yeah.
So you did a movie, it was a horror movie coming out in mid-August. Toxic Adventures. Yeah.
The problem is that the speakers are going that way, so it's actually quite difficult to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to come up, I'm so sorry. It's like listening to music about the movie Toxic Adventures. Sorry. Yeah, so it's asking about Toxic Avenger.
Toxic Avenger. Oh, there you go.
The long-delayed Toxic Avenger. So, my friend Megan, who's an incredible actor and writer and director, we worked together on this movie called I Don't Feel Alone. If you've not seen it, it's on Netflix. It's great. And so his second feature is an adaptation or a remake of Toxic Avenger, the Trauma movie. And it's totally crazy and gonzo and fucking absurd and really funny.
Locura, locura.
And I
¿Verdad que sí,
play
Jaron? Locura,
kind of a
tóxicamente.
hunchback, like evil assistant to Kevin Bacon. And I think Kevin Bacon's like deformed brother is actually Kevin Bacon's amazing. He's the villain in the movie. It's crazy, man. It's finally coming out in August.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's such a great. Definitely go see it in a cinema if you can. It's very much a communal cinema experience. Just you want to see it with a lot of people and laugh out loud. I've seen it twice with a big audience, and it's so much fun. It's really ridiculous. I love it. I'm thrilled that it finally is finding distribution. Because for the longest time, it was just looking for a home, and it finally has found one. So yeah, so it's gonna be great.
Speaking of like crazy stuff, I know I love Wilfred. I love that show so much. I know there were talks of maybe like making like a goodbye film. Have there any updates about that?
No, I don't think so. I think I know. Wilfred is really special. Yeah, I mean, we had so much fun making that over the course of the 4 years that we did. It was almost the exact same crew the whole time. So it always felt like this family reunion every year. We'd get together and just like have a laugh. Yeah, we were really grateful having got to make that weird show. It's awesome.
Hello. Thank you for coming to our ad. I was just gonna ask you about your experience on the miniseries Treasure Island.
Oh yeah.
How was your experience with that? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah. Treasure Island, so I think we shot that in 2011. It's crazy how long it's been. So that's my first time to Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
It was great. It was super fun. And to work on, you know, an adaptation of that piece of literature. That character was really fun. And very different from anything I'd done before. Sort of wild, mad, rambling guy who'd kind of gone crazy. Eddie Izzard was really fun to work with. Yeah, that movie, I mean, it was a TV series, it was sort of like a 3-part adaptation for Sky TV in the UK. And I got to come and kind of do a fun, mad role. It was a blast. Yeah, it was cool. And it was, again, my introduction to Puerto Rico, which was really lovely. I loved being here. I loved walking around Old San Juan. Very, very fond memories. Eating mofongo for the first time.
I have a really good friend. She's here in the audience. I'm not gonna name her because I have a really good friend who's here in the audience. She's a huge fan. I'm not gonna name her because she will murder me. But she reminded me that you're a big fan of sandwiches.
Do you like a sandwich?
And did you try the Puerto Rican sandwiches when you were here doing Treasure Island?
I don't think so.
So there's a sandwich called Regreta. Right?
Tú no estás haciendo muchas
It's
cosas.
like 3 meats.
You need to try it before you leave.
3 meats.
Yeah.
Hey, did you set the content?
More meat.
Hello. My name is Peter.
So weird. So I love your roles in horror, and Echo is so weird. I was wondering what movie impacted you as a child? Want to be more involved in horror?
What movie impacted me as a child? I mean, I think I was, 44, so I grew up a child of the 80s and 90s. All of the big Hallmark kind of blockbusters from the 70s and 80s were huge for me. The Goonies. Also, Gremlins was really big for me. So yeah, the Joe Dante movies. Indiana Jones, Star Wars. Star Wars was huge. Again, with my older brother, he had been like collecting toys from when he was a kid, so I was around all of that ephemera. So those initial kind of big, you know, I mean, E.T. too, when I was a kid. So yeah, it's like the kind of big blockbuster classics that I think had the biggest impact on me in my early life. And then, you know, the older I got, the more I was exposed to all kinds of cinema. And I think I really credit my mom actually with initially exposing me to international cinema, because my mom had this fascination with wanting to watch French movies. So she was like renting French movies, and you know, we were watching these kind of French classics, and it sort of broke that seal, because you know, I think at a certain point, you know, you either are annoyed by subtitles or you're like are into it, and I was like into it really quickly, which was great, and that sort of opened up this whole world to me. So that like my mid-teens and you know, mid to late teens were like big for expanding my mind and going to the video store and just renting crazy movies and seeing wild shit. I completely still to this day had an impact on who I am.
You're known for playing video games, a lot of video games. Is there any games you like? What are your favorite video games? Are you playing any right now?
I'm not playing anything at the moment. I have 2 kids, so it's really hard to parse out time to play games. But the last game I played was playing Dredge on my Switch. Dredge is cool.
Sí.
But growing
Miro
up,
las 4 tortugas y el del medio.
some of my favorite games were that period in the mid to late 90s where LucasArts were making all these really amazing adventure games like you know, Curse of Monkey Island, Full Throttle, Maniac Mansion 2, Day of the Tentacle, Sam & Max Hit the Road, like all of those great, really cleverly written adventure games I was obsessed with. I had them all. Grim Fandango.
Best game ever.
Yeah. See, and so for me, it's so funny because, you know, Double Fine, which is a company made by Tim Schafer. Tim came from LucasArts. He made a lot of those games. I was such a fan. When they were doing the initial Kickstarter for Broken Age, basically their like return to adventure games, I was like, oh shit, they're gonna make another adventure game. This is awesome. And then I got to do a voice for it, which was like, what kind of dream come true is this? Like, if you told my, you know, 12-year-old self that I was going to be in a Tim Schafer game, oh man, it's so cool. So awesome.
Are you still playing Animal Crossing?
Nah, I haven't played it in a while.
Right,
There was
like
a very specific time where our son was really young, and my wife and I had a ton of time because it was mid-COVID, so we were just like gaming like crazy on that. And then it, you know, time suddenly came back and we had to get back to reality. I had to get off the island.
Right, first of all, I want to say thank you for blessing us with your presence. I understand that you're a food enthusiast, so my question is going to be along that line.
What was that?
Sorry, am I too close?
A little bit.
Okay, so I understand you're a food enthusiast.
A foodie?
A foodie, yeah. Yeah. So my question is going to be along that line.
I missed that part too.
It's alright, the question is this. We know that in the world of Middle Earth, there are elves, dwarves, hobbits. What do you think the real life favorite street food would be?
The real life what?
Street food, favorite street food.
Real life street food for elves and...
Oh.
That's not really a cool question.
That's a cool question. Alright.
Estoneado. Estoneado.
At least hobbits, you should be able to answer that.
Oh wow. I feel like hobbits it's gonna be some like meatballs or something.
Something hearty.
Yeah. And then with dwarves, oh man, what's a good, like, Jurassic Park turkey leg. Yeah, turkey leg? That works. That works. I'm trying to think of something really refined for elves. Like,
Totally albums.
all the suggestions. We're not like, you know, or like glass noodles, or something Asian and really refined. And then for for men, it could be mofongo. That's a good question.
Hi there. Firstly, I'll admit I'm very starstruck.
Don't be nervous.
And there's a lot of echo. So my question, and I kind of stumbled when we took the picture. I was just like, hi, bye, sorry. Like, so my question is, as an upcoming director, what did yourself as an actor and being around sets, like all kinds of sets, what would be a good advice for a new director?
Good advice for a new director?
New director, yeah. As an actor, or what would be a big no?
In terms of working with actors, or?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Or a big no, or like something that you shouldn't.
Yeah, I think there's so many different ways to do it, you know. And I think the thing about directors is everyone kind of brings their own themselves to the process. And I don't, in terms of working with actors, I think just communicating and like being able to articulate what it is that what your vision is, and to do that clearly. But I think that's the primary job of a director. For the crew too, is like, you know that person has got the vision, and you can always rely on that, and everybody can feel that. I think beyond that, it just comes down to how you communicate with people, and I think everyone's different. And I don't necessarily think there's a right or wrong way. There are some directors that don't give any notes, so you're like, am I doing okay? Like, I need to do it different. And there are some people who give tons of notes, and that's also interesting, you know? And you're like, oh fuck, I got a lot to work with. I don't have necessarily a favorite kind of director. I think, if anything, I just like being a part of knowing them a part of the director's vision, and that they have a clear idea of where we're all headed. I think that's kind of it.
Perfect, thank you.
You've worked with a lot of directors throughout your career. Is there any director you would wish to work with that you haven't worked with yet?
Sure. I mean, if the Coen brothers were to do movies together again, I love the Coen brothers, I love their films. Oh man. Edgar Wright. I just love what he does. He's an incredibly meticulous filmmaker. I know people who have worked with him, and he's really specific, and I kind of love that too. To speak about like styles, that guy has a great deal of specificity, and I think that's cool. And I love his movies. I just think they're visually really smart. They're rhythmically really interesting. Oh man, there's so many. I mean, Paul Thomas Anderson, I think, is perhaps one of the great living directors. He's never failed. I think every single film is incredible. I don't know, loads. I think, what's his name? Directed Force Majeure and The Square. He's a great Swedish director. Triangle of Sadness he directed as well. I can't remember the guy's name. I'm forgetting it. He's amazing. I don't know, there's so many incredible filmmakers.
There's a scene, I was speaking about directors, Return of the King, when you already, did the deed with the ring, and everybody's coming in the room and you're saying their names, but there's a theory that Frodo doesn't know Legolas' name because you're like, that dude. Was there like a direction from Peter for that scene, or did you actually record yourself like saying Legolas and they just didn't put it in the film? I don't know.
I can tell you this. I feel like I would remember if it were like a specific intentional omission. Like, isn't it weird that I'm not, I feel like I would remember. We're not gonna refer to him because you don't know his name. So no, beyond that, I don't remember. I remember shooting that scene. I remember everybody coming in. I remember Legolas being there. But I kind of love this narrative that somehow Frodo is like, who the fuck is that? I think it's kind of great. I actually think Frodo knows his name.
Hola Elijah, magandang I know that you said that you've come to San Juan. I don't know if you have the chance to see some of our island, but is there something or some place that you would say definitely belongs in Middle Earth other than food?
So other than New Zealand?
Yeah, like stuff from here, Puerto Rico.
What you're seeing from Puerto Rico?
What I see here. Oh. Yeah, I mean, not on this trip, because I've only really been here. The first time I was here, we shot interior in some forest, and I feel like that was quite Middle-earthy. Yeah.
Was it the rainforest?
It may have been. Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Wood. My name is Eric, and my question to you is, should Activision and possibly Toys for Bob decide to develop a remake for The Legend of Spyro?
So, sure. I mean, the thing is...
Would you consider reprising your role as the titular character?
Yeah, sure.
Él es Spyro the Dragon. What the hell?
In the last couple of years, at attending conventions and meeting y'all, that I had any sense of the impact that those games had. I had no idea. I mean, I kept doing the voice. I never played the game. Truth be told, I know. I need to revisit it, clearly. But they really mean something to people, which is amazing. I really didn't understand the impact. So yeah, I mean, if Activision, they were to maybe make a movie or something, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome.
One of the reasons I think we all adore you is that we feel that you're one of us. That you're, a fellow geek, a fellow nerd. I know. That's why we love you, right? And I have to ask you, have you ever gone to a convention like Incognito Cosplay so people don't recognize you?
Yeah. At San Diego Comiccon one year, I bought a Mike Myers mask and I just walked around with that. Because I had friends that I wanted to see in various booths. Like at the time, do you know Mondo? They make amazing movie posters. So at the time when Mondo was not owned by Funko, they had a booth there. So I'm friends with all those guys. And subsequently, my company and I have re-platformed all of the original Mondo people under a new company called Mutant. If nobody knows, check it out. They're amazing. But anyways, I wanted to visit those guys, and there were other booths that I wanted to see. And I just wanted to be on the floor because the floor is cool and there's so much stuff to see. So I got a mask. I walked around, and I ended up running into Guillermo del Toro because Guillermo had a booth for Crimson Peak. It was really special with some props and stuff from the film. and I was looking at the props, and there was this guy in a mask, and I can't even remember what his mask was. And I was like, wait, is that? And it was Guillermo, and he was wearing a mask too. He was like, dude, what are you doing? It's me! He like caught up for a second and put our mask back on. It's pretty dope.
That's awesome.
Okay, thank you for being here. I think we all feel closer to Middle Earth, thanks to you.
Oh, thanks.
The echo is crazy, I'm so sorry. So my question is, talking about food, and also you are kind of a geek of music.
Yeah.
Is there any food or musician, music from Puerto Rico that you're actually obsessed in or interested right now?
I don't know it well, is the thing. I don't know Puerto Rico.
We will send you stuff.
Yeah. I need to be educated. I need to be educated.
Well, you did try Mofongo, right?
I did try Mofongo, yes. Mofongo's still
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Las preguntas de las freaking islas. Uy.
Companies, activation, and there's some
Es que es tan estúpido, hermano.
Could you tell us a little bit about Rabbit Trap?
Rabbit Trap is this really wonderful sort of folk horror film that we premiered at Sundance, this last Sundance Film Festival, starring Rose McEwen and Dev Patel. Patel was so amazing. And it's set in the 1970s in the Welsh countryside, as Rose's character is an electronic musician, and Dev plays her husband, who's a field recordist. And they kind of happen upon something that they're not supposed to, record something they're not supposed to, kind of like in the old fairy tradition. And it starts to infiltrate their lives.
It's getting heavy.
This young boy who may or may not be of this world. It's really special. Sound design is amazing. It's such a sonic picture. It has this really wonderful, rich sort of underbelly of kind of folk horror history. I love folk horror films. I think they're so interesting. The Wicker Man is one of my favorite films of all time. So it's sort of in that
Wicker,
and
The Beast.
Hopefully come out sometime later this year, if not early next year.
Not yet.
No, esa es la única que...
Hello. I collect quotes and ideas in a commonplace book for inspiration. Is there a line from a film or a show you worked on, or just a piece of advice you received that you find meaningful or inspiring?
Sure.
No puedo entender la pregunta.
This quote off of a Radiohead website from like the 90s or early 2000s. I think it's from Siddhartha. I could be wrong. But the quote is essentially, and I might get it wrong, but there's nothing noble in being superior to your fellow man. True nobility is being superior to your former self. And I just love that. It's like, it's self-betterment, it's recognizing that you are an evolving thing, and our goals are not to be better than other people, but rather to be the best person we can be. I like that. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Está grabado para que te quejes. Para que te quejes. Grabado.
We can't hear you.
Alright, so hi again.
Was it difficult? Was it difficult to play a villain in Sin City?
It was really fun. The challenge of Kevin was maybe the physicality. Like, I think I only really knew with relative short lead time that I was going to be on wires jumping around, doing like martial art wire movement that I'd never done before. And I think
¿Qué película?
there was no rehearsal period really for it, if I remember correctly. But I was so game and it sounded awesome. For me, the joy of getting to play Kevin was I had read all of the comics not long before having dinner with Robert Rodriguez in LA, prior to any announcement of Sin City happening. So Robert and I and our friend George were having dinner. And Robert was we were talking about what each other were up to, and he was like, oh, my next thing is Sin City. And I was like, wait, what? And in my head, I had literally just finished reading them and was dreaming up how incredible it would be to adapt them primarily in animation form. It just feels like Frank Miller's drawings are so specific. How could that ever be adapted in a way that would do it justice? And so we were talking about that. He's like, dude, do you want to see? I've got the opening of the movie in my car. I was like, what? And I went out to the parking lot, and on his laptop, he had that first scene with Josh Hartnett on the sort of veranda that opens the movie. It was done, and then he had done that as a proof of concept partially for Frank and with Frank, but also for Dimension to show, like, we can do this. So it was really a way to get the movie jump-started and funded. And so I saw that he had made it, and it came to life, and I couldn't believe it. And I think over dinner, George was like, you should be Kevin. And I was like, yeah, be cool. But, whatever. And then Robert was like, do you want to audition for me? You can just come to the Four Seasons, and I'll just shoot you, like, staring at the camera. Because he doesn't talk, And so for me, it was such a joy because I knew the graphic novel so well. I was a real fan of Frank Miller's. And the cool thing about the making of that movie was that each of the frames of the comic book were essentially the storyboards for the movie. So Robert would be like, we're doing that frame next. And I'd be like, oh, okay, I know exactly what that is. So it was so helpful and so informative, and it was like, oh, cool, we're gonna do that. And I've never had an experience like that before. It was so fun. And I'm running around, like, doing high kicks. It was great. Mickey Rourke, unfortunately, wasn't there, so I didn't get to meet Mickey until the premiere. He'd already shot all of his stuff, so I was working with his stunt double. It's the thing about working against green screen. They didn't, there was I think one set, the bar. It was I think maybe one or two of the sets that they built. Everything else was on green screen. But Frank Miller was on set, co-directing, coming up with new shot ideas. Like, it was so cool. It was so cool.
Well, Elijah, we've run out of time. But I really want to thank you for being here, sharing this time with us. And I really want you to know that we, the fans in Puerto Rico, just love you to death. You are a very special part of our lives. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Bueno, ahí estuvo el Ayabut, espero que hayan escuchado bastante. No pude grabar live, estoy acá haciendo esto. Por favor, suscríbanse a mi canal para más contenido del Comiccon. Y espero que les haya gustado, estuvo bien bueno. Hay unas preguntas que no se entendieron muy bien y el audio se cortó en un momento, pero no fue mi culpa. Y entonces esta cámara pesa, déjame decirte, tengo un stand aquí abajo, tengo un stand que está hecho, me tiene el dedo doblado. Así que espero que les haya gustado el video. Así que nos vemos. Recuerden lo más importante, hagan bien y no miren a quién. And take care of each other. Peace and chicken grease. Bye guys, subscribe for more content. Y ayúdenme a ser un gran youtuber. Gracias a ustedes por sintonizar.